All right, let's talk about the Tennessee Titans with probably the most amount of holes to fill in the draft. And they went out. They've been lacking an offensive lineman since they lost. They lost that pick that we talked about very early on. And then Taylor Lewan, he started getting banged up, and he had a budding broadcasting career, and he decided to call it quits. So they had to fill that hole as well. As JC Latham, is he going to be able to transfer over the NFL? Because honestly, it's about 50-50 with these Alabama offensive tackles. It is,
Yeah, that
right?
is
Some of these
interesting.
guys,
No, you're not wrong.
they get the grown man body earlier than other guys in college, and then they don't progress. It's kind of, I kind of look at Alabama offensive linemen as a lot of Duke players. Their coach gets the most out of them already
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
college. So you're not going to see a huge jump when they get to the NFL. Who knows if Evan Neal can even play tackle in the NFL?
Well, Brian Callahan is arguably the best offensive line coach in the NFL. So you're getting that paired with a guy like JC Latham, who may need a little bit more work, but he really took off during the second half of Alabama's season. And that's where the steam started to build up for him in NFL draft circles. I have no doubt that he'll be able to find success because of the coach pairing in Tennessee. So this might be able to buck that trend that you're talking about. Nothing is a guarantee, but the guy's tape says that he is that dude, right? Like he can be an excellent NFL player. Now, whether he'll be a left tackle or a right tackle, I feel like he'll be more potentially of a right tackle, but he can be a guy that kicks to the left side, and that's generally the thing with these rookie tackles when you bring them in. You're not just going to throw them to the blind side. Tavondre Sweat, big dude, obviously in the middle. Crazy thing with him is he didn't always play one technique. Over the nose tackle Byron Murphy sometimes flipped into one technique, being smaller than Tavondre Sweat. There are concerns with his weight, him being able to stay at a manageable number and still being able to physically play football at the NFL level. So if he can keep that manageable and it translates over, you're hitting a home run on the defensive line. Day 3 is where they made some hay on day 3. Cedric Gray, very underrated, not talked about enough linebacker from North Carolina. He can pass cover. Jarvis Brownlee Jr., the corner out of Louisville, was their top corner last year on a solid team in Louisville. Very good defense, underrated, not talked about enough. And Jalen Harrell out of Michigan, the edge rusher, another key piece to that national championship winning defense for Michigan. He's going to give you some pass rush versatility, a good run stopper as well. So I think they hit a home run in regards to day 3. Day 1, I feel like they're good. Day 2 is questionable.
All right. Tennessee Titans, a lot to be left desired. Let's move on to the Indianapolis Colts. You know what? I think one of the sneakiest drafts this year in the NFL. I think the Colts absolutely nailed it. You got him an A- here. I want to give him an A+ to go out and get. So you already have his pass rushing specialist in Kwity Paye. To go out and get Laiatu Latu and being able to team him up with another edge in passing situations with a disruptor like DeForest Buckner in the middle and having those two demons come off the edge, that could be an absolute game changer in a division with Trevor Lawrence and CJ Stroud and Nate's favorite Will Levis. And then I was not the biggest Adonai Mitchell guy. I didn't like him in the first round personally. I wasn't going to go reach for him. But value is value, and when you can get him in the second, holy shit, I'm getting a 6'5", 4'3", 40-yard dash guy in the second round that showed up on the biggest stage in college football. That's a steal. These guys nailed it this year. Chris Ballard is just him and Howie Roseman, man, two of my favorite actors in the NFL.
Oh yeah, these guys kill it every single year in the draft. There's certain teams when they draft guys, you're like, oh yeah, it's like almost like if you question something, you got to go research it. If you haven't already, if you don't know a prospect that they're getting, you got to go look it up and make sure, because you know that they're doing their homework on these guys 100%, right? But in addition, they were the first defensive player off the board was Laiatu Latu. A lot of people thought that it was going to be Dallas Turner being that first defensive player off the board. Laiatu Latu had the neck injury at the University of Washington, by the way. We talked about that before being a reason why teams might drop them down their draft boards, but an absolute steal the best pure edge rusher in this draft class. Very comparable to Aiden Hutchinson in terms of that emphatic movement, getting to the quarterback. He can beat you with power. He can beat you with speed off the edge. I love that pickup for them. Adonai Mitchell, you brought him up. Why did he drop in the draft? The reason the dude dropped in the draft had to do with some rumors about him being a diabetic on the medical side and being like a cranky diabetic and
Well, it
severely
turned out well for Mark
uncoachable.
Andrews.
Exactly. People brought that up. I did hear that being brought up. That I didn't even know that about Mark Andrews, by the way. So at the end of the day, hearing that in comparison, it makes you wonder, like, why are we even talking about that? Were people bringing this up to get him to fall down draft boards? But if you go look at this dude, he's 6'4". I mean, he's got the big, outside receiver prototype. I thought that he was kind of like a George Pickens-esque style receiver. And you're getting an absolute steal at the end of the day at pick 52. Go watch his film, not just Texas. Go watch him at Georgia. He was awesome at Georgia, paired with Lad McConkey and Brock Bowers, by the way. So you're getting a steal at pick 52. Center Tanner Bordellini, another guy during the combine process that, rose up draft boards. They got a steal at pick 117 there. Obviously, he's from Wisconsin. So that's a no-brainer. Anthony Gold is a guy I didn't have a grade on. I graded 26 different wide receivers. This guy didn't make it. And all I hear is glowing things about Anthony Gold at the wide receiver position. So
I heard he
we'll have to
declared
double
for the
check.
draft because he didn't want to go to East Lansing.
Nice.
Love
Yeah,
it.
excellent. I think they get an A- at the end of the day. Like you said, Woody, we could give them an A+ if
Love
we
it.
wanted to. We
On
could bump them
value
up.
wise, it was a steal.
We could.
Best pass
Absolutely
rusher
could.
in the middle of the draft, and then you get top 5 wide receiver prospects in the second round.
And tons of great quality on day
I like
3
Dallas Turner
potential.
more.
I mean, I see a starter. I see a starter on all 3
Yeah.
days.
Yeah,
Right?
no, 100%.
That's a win.
And you can't hate on that. That's all you can ask for. All right, so let's talk the Houston Texans this year. In the draft, this was not a flashy one. Obviously, D'Amico Ryans, he's got his offense set up now. They went and traded for Joe Mixon, the 1-2 punch with Devin Singletary. They have the running backs. The line was looking good. They are stacked at wide receiver now with Nico Collins, and they went out and they got Stephon Diggs. And then we have the youngster coming back from the injured ankle in Tank Dell, and Dalton Schultz proved to be a great signing from the Dallas Cowboys. They're set on the offensive side of the ball. So what is D'Amico Ryans going to do? He's going to build up his defense. So they went out. They had no picks on day 1 because they made that trade up for Will Anderson last year, which was a killer trade. It was great. They went out and they got Kamari Lassiter, one of Brandon's favorite prospects at the cornerback position from Georgia, and Blake Fisher, tackle from Notre Dame. He did not get as much buzz because of Joe Alt on the other side, but he was also a beast. One of the best run games in the nation with suspect quarterback play. They were just absolute road graders. But here's the guy, man. Kalen Bullock, there are holes in his game, but going to a coach like D'Amico Ryans, that's going to scheme you into the right places for your strengths. One thing I will say about USC, they had one of the worst lines in college football, defensive lines last year. But the secondary, the year before and last year, were turnover creating machines. So dropping a guy with Derek Stingley Jr. and like the good cornerback play that they had last year, Kalen Bullock, he has a nose for the football. This could be a good pick for this defense. Does he see the field this year?
I think that he can see. I think Kalen Bullock has a shot to see the field this year. One of the things about him, too, that I think could be very helpful is he has the potential to play that slot corner role. So he can play that nickelback role for you on defense. He gives you that kind of versatility as a defensive back. I think he could be that kind of a rotational player if they need him to be, but I think he absolutely has the talent to go out there and be that guy for the Houston Texans. You brought up Kamari Lassiter, bringing him in at corner. This is more of a guy that people are looking at and saying, okay, he left a lot to be desired in a lot of ways while he was at Georgia, but he has a ton of talent, a ton of upside. So I feel like they filled a need by bringing in a guy like Kamari Lassiter who can play corner on the outside. They filled another need on the defensive side of the football, bringing in a Kalen Bullock with all the talent in the world. Somebody just needs to help him realize that talent at the end of the day. I think Kalen Bullock is one of the more underrated talents coming into this NFL draft class in a very not so desirable safety position at the end of the day in this draft. So I think they get a great steal and a great opportunity at a guy who could be a high level player within the next couple of years.
Absolutely. And if you're saying that he is the nickelback they needed the nickelback position, so you're saying they needed a hero to save them, and they're not gonna turn it away. No Nickelback fans here. The Spider-Man song.
He definitely sucks.
Day 3. Any steals here?
Day 3 for the Houston Texans. 1 second here. Yeah, so day 3, Cade Stover, the tight end out of Ohio State. I know that's one of CJ's favorite tight ends. He's actually the number 5 tight end on the Football Scout 365 NFL Draft Big Board. I think you're getting a solid player, a great blocker. One of the things about Big Ten tight ends, and what you'll notice as teams are drafting them at the combine, like for example, the sled drills where the blocking sleds, they seem to be the only ones who understood how to utilize one of those. If you go watch the videos of the tight ends blocking, it's literally Big Ten tight ends. Those guys were just owning the sled. Other dudes were just struggling to move it at all. It was pretty interesting. Like they had never worked with a sled before. So again, Cade Stover's one of those guys who can give you that versatility as an inline tight end or a guy who can line up in the slot if you want to. That's their biggest pickup, in my opinion, getting him at pick 123. Day 2, by the way, Blake Fisher, the tackle from Notre Dame, very underrated tackle. I think he gives you a good right tackle opportunity and maybe interior offensive line. He could play a guard position for the Houston Texans.
Absolutely. All right. Well, let's move on to the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Jaguars, wasn't a big fan of the draft here. I loved Brian Thomas Jr. trading down and being able to get him where they did. I thought that was a great pick. I think he has all the skills to be a 1 or 2 wide receiver in the NFL. But the rest of the draft left a little to be desired for me. Brandon, what do you think of the Jaguars draft here?
Honestly, I mean, I gave him a B grade overall. I love the Brian Thomas Jr. pickup. Mason Smith, the interior defensive lineman from LSU, another high ceiling player. And again, like the value of defensive linemen in the NFL, it's going to continue to go up. Being able to get a guy like that at pick 48, I thought was a little high in my opinion. He was a guy who was getting a little bit more publicity a couple months ago. I feel like maybe they could have waited a little bit longer on something like that, but when you got your guy, you go get him, right? And then Jarrian Jones, I think, very underrated defensive back. Florida State's secondary was really, really good last year. Jarrian Jones, very underrated defensive back. I think he's a solid pickup for them. Day 3, they didn't really kill it too much on day 3. They ended up picking up a kicker, Miles Cole, the edge rusher from Texas Tech. He was a NFL Combine darling, put up phenomenal numbers at the Combine. DeAndre Prince, I didn't have a grade on him, but I did hear some good things for him. At the end of the day, I gave him a flat B grade. Brian Thomas Jr. is going to be the one that really drives this ship at the end of the day, because my opinion, and I was mocking receiver to the Jacksonville Jaguars over and over again. You just got to continue to keep building around Trevor Lawrence to give him weapons. You got to give him the Joe Burrow treatment. You got to give these quarterbacks more options to throw the football to. And this was the best draft to do it. I like what they did. I'm not going to argue with that at all.
Nate, any closing thoughts on the Jacksonville Jaguars draft?
I like Brian Thomas. I like Brian Thomas Jr. Jarrian Jones, solid. Other than that, I don't really have very many other thoughts.
All righty.